Have not heard.
To use my digital agenda tonight.
I could put it up on the screen if you want.
Sure.
It's the wrong one.
All right, let's do the thing. The time is 6:03. I'll call to order the March meeting of the South Kingstown Conservation Commission. We'll start with roll call. Mary Talbot Raboan.
Here.
Carol Craig.
Here.
Melissa Hughes.
Here.
I believe Jay Vern Wyman is on his way. Jay Parker, our staff person, is here. I'm Matt Bradywood. I am here. And joining us tonight as a contributing member of the public, Kate Shorrock is a prospective member of the CONCOM.
Kate, how do you spell your name, last name?
S-H-O-R-R-O-C-A.
Hopefully, she's going through the process of joining the Conservation Commission. Hopefully by April, we'll have her here in an official capacity. But she's listening in or even contributing if she likes tonight. We'll start off with an approval of minutes from the February 4th CONCOM meeting.
I approve it. I'll second.
Motion by Melissa, seconded by Mary. We have no old business. We talked about removing the, in the past, we've had sort of a
definitely.
perennial
Yeah.
check-in on Old Tower Hill Road, but I think we're tabling that until
Right,
something
I'll let
necessary
you know,
comes up.
yeah.
Yeah. So we'll move right on to new business, which is sort of old business. It's something that we were discussing last meeting, but hopefully a meaningful continuation of that conversation. So it's going to be a discussion on the Commission's tree stewardship resources. We had discussed town ordinance amendments and the possibility of seeking Tree City USA accreditation.
I have something, with Jay, yep,
You want the other one?
well, actually, I sent you, I hope, just a small file said it was called Native Tree Language for Tree Ordinance.
Was that you? Wait.
Yeah, yes, I sent you two documents, that one and then another one on Tree City Arbor Day.
Got it. That one.
Um,
Where did these other ones come from? Cumberland?
I
Is
don't
that
know what,
Was that
I
you?
don't, well, I don't know, that might have been a long time ago.
Oh,
I do-
last year. Why did it come? I searched your name and it came up with February 24, and then
Never
below it is
forgets.
25.
Oh, well,
Sorry.
no, not at all, not at all.
All right, so I'm gonna go to which one do you want first?
What, the native tree language, please? Okay, well, maybe it was before you came on the board, Carol, but around last August, September, the Conservation Commission developed language to incorporate the use of native plants into one particular part of the, well, it says advisory, we submitted an advisory amendment to the subdivision land development regulations, the section G landscaping, general standards and specification. So that what we, changed this, the plant material language to incorporate use of, the two native plant guides online and also to prohibit the use of invasive species in a particular document. So if you kind of scroll it up, and I just wanted to point out that that nursery stock document, that really has nothing to do with plants per se. It's like a standard that provides uniform language for buying and selling. So I just wanted to clarify that. So if you go down to, so I kind of developed like a draft language to maybe put in the tree, our tree ordinance for just looking at trees. I didn't really change much. I just changed, native plants, so to speak, with, the word trees, and, as a, once again, this is drafted, but it's more or less the same language that we used for, in the general standards for, landscaping. So I didn't know if,
Can I interrupt real quick?
Yeah, sure.
Is similar language to this already in section 18.5?
Well, what is in 18.5? It does say promote the planting of appropriate species to increase diversity and mix
Okay.
of trees.
Okay.
So I didn't know if that potentially we could that this language might be added. I kind of have it here, added to section 18.53B, or it could be potentially in 18.53. Add it as an E at the bottom.
Yeah, I don't think there's no document referenced in
That's
the tree
correct.
ordinance.
Yeah. There
So
Yeah,
is.
it
no,
mentions
that's fine.
it mentions like referring to the pertinent document, but it doesn't link. To
I got a
anything.
little confused because I want to say I might have read similar language to like this in the subregs, which
Yeah.
is why I was saying, wait, was that in the subregs or is that in the ordinance? I just
But
wanted
when
to-
we got that, when Melissa worked on that, didn't we add that? Isn't that
We
the
did.
document we added? Is
Yes.
the
Yeah.
subregs?
Yes, yeah. We added it to the to what was above the
which has not been.
the landscaping, that section G landscaping.
Yes. Yeah.
Part. That's what our advisory was focused on, and so I couldn't. Once again, I just more or less rephrased.
That's perfect. So I don't lose my train of thought, and so I can inform you guys. Your advisory to the planning board on the subregs went to the planning board.
Oh.
However, there's a much larger push to
Mm.
address landscape regulations, so they're kind of that advisory is being kept at bay to be incorporated into whatever's going to come out of revisions of the landscape.
Oh, good. That's great.
And Melissa, do you know if that document how extensive is the discussion of trees within that native plant guide? Is there
Well,
is that do we think that's the best document to have linked in the tree?
both of these guides are more or less, well, not more or less. They're lists. It's like an Excel spreadsheet of lists of plants, and they're divided by ferns, flowers, shrubs, trees. So it really that's what they provide. They're just suggesting natives for you to look at, whether they're suitable for coastal planting or I guess general planting. They don't really have. Well, I think actually both of them might have like some characteristics of the plants. I'm sorry, I haven't looked at them recently. Like drought, sun, shade. That type of type of what they characteristics of that particular plant that they tolerate.
Right. Yeah, I just couldn't remember whether trees as a section was like populated with enough options that we would want to see it populated
Yeah.
with.
Well, I think, obviously, that's certainly something that can be reviewed, but yes, I think it is more or less I assume it was kind of as wide a variety of trees as they
Sure.
could, the natives and.
Yeah, excellent.
And well, once again, the native plant guide was put together by people at the University of Rhode Island, and obviously CRMC was put together by, I assume, CRMC biologists, it seemed to be the best resources available right now in Rhode Island. For Rhode Island, it's trees.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah, excellent. If we wanted to add in language like this, where do we think that fits best in the existing tree ordinance?
I did point up there, the draft proposed language based on, Concord, that it might be added to section, the first page, section 18.523. It's right here on the front.
Yep. I'm
5.2,
looking at it.
added at the end of B. B is promote the planting of appropriate species to increase diversity and mix of trees, or added as its own, a 3E at the bottom. Maybe
I thought there was a section that mentioned a document, but didn't obviously mention this document. There was some place where I thought, as I was reading it, I was like, oh, this would be a good place to insert.
Well, I mean, once again, we can certainly, I mean, I'm assuming that this might be voted on, tonight
No,
to,
no.
review this again and, see if there's, more appropriate.
That's easy.
Oh, yeah.
I just put that up on the screen for you guys. If it's
Oh, great,
easier.
yeah.
18.5-22, planting of trees.
Oh,
Um,
dash 22.
It says, any person desiring to plant a tree within town public rights of way must first obtain a written permit from the tree warden. Any written permit shall be granted to a date certain and shall include consideration of appropriateness of species, location, size, and public safety. That might be a good place
Yeah, I like that
Yeah.
there.
to then direct people towards the Rhode Island Native Plant Guide.
Yeah, sure.
Like
wherever.
that's where they would be able to see what they are allowed to,
If they're being told to
once they get permit.
select on
Yeah.
species,
Yeah.
then
So that would be like an 18.5-22C, would you say?
Yeah.
Or would it be a continuation of the A that you just read?
Well,
I don't know how the ordinances have
I
to
think you can,
be structured.
don't
I
know.
would say you could modify that A to say shall include consideration of appropriateness of species in accordance with C below.
Okay.
And then add C on the bottom, and then C would be your new language.
Yeah, that's what.
Oh, great, yeah. Wherever.
Because the first part of that sentence says that you need a written permit by the tree warden.
If we took C and add Melissa's stuff there.
Actually, you know what? Probably your language would be B, and then that B would become C.
I was just going to kind of suggest that or bring that up, maybe
Yeah,
kind
I
of
guess we
follow A better than B. So either way would be fine. I mean, whatever board decides, fine.
Cool. Yeah, I think that's well there.
Great.
So just sort of broadly,
But-
I don't know if we all got a chance to look at the existing ordinance and or look at the document that DEM provided about the idea of developing or adding to an existing tree ordinance. Did anyone have any other thoughts on anything that was lacking in our existing? For starters, the document we're looking at that exists for SK is a tree ordinance. It's not specifically a street tree ordinance, which is sort of what this DEM guide is catered towards. But I think that it has a lot of those components. It felt like our existing ordinance is mostly geared towards discussing the tree warden and what his or her responsibilities are and powers are. But I don't know if anyone has any thoughts on areas that we could improve on it.
I compared this to a couple of different towns, and I felt like we were right in line. I did not see anything that was missing, although I never thought about what you wrote there, Melissa. It's good to add in here. That did not occur to me at the time that we could do that. On this one that you're referring to, there's a lot of live links on here that, in order to really look at this,
Yeah.
I had to bring up the one on my, every time I got to a place, I'm like, oh, what's that,
Right. Yeah. It
So-
definitely functions better as a PDF.
But I started with our ordinance because I thought, this applies to us, so I should start here before I get too deep. And
For
then
sure.
I went in reverse there. And I like what the hard work and what's done here, and I don't see any place that, and I like the way they described what the warden was doing and that we kind of supplement
Right.
the warden.
Yeah, you mentioned other towns.
Yeah.
In that DEM document, they have an example of a town, and it's Barrington, Rhode Island, and it's an example of their or some of the language from their tree ordinance. They require their tree warden to, on a regular basis, attend all regular and special meetings of the tree board, tree board subcommittees or other community meetings as designated by the chair. I don't think that's something that we need to do, but it's just, I think certain communities, maybe Jamestown as well, have a tree warden that has greater responsibilities than our tree warden has. And something that we could consider is, what are we asking that role to play within the town? And are they just tree maintenance? Are they tree, I think like in Jamestown, for instance, I think their tree warden is doing a lot more tree care, sort of preventative work, and not just pruning and removal of trees. So in revamping or rethinking this ordinance, we have the potential to sort of steer the responsibilities maybe of the tree warden, and or we're happy with how it's functioning currently. But
Well, to make an advisory, to attempt to steer.
well, the tree ordinance lays out the responsibilities and duties and powers of the tree warden. So if we were to amend that, it would change that.
You would make an advisory to the town
Well,
council.
well,
to
sure,
amend
sure,
it.
sure.
That's what I
Yeah.
mean.
Would we like to invite them so we can meet them and ask them what they'd like to see as far as our help towards that? Like
Yeah.
hey, what do you want from us? We're here. What
Did-
what can we do for you? Kind of thing. I think that would be a good way to approach them.
Did you say that there was a turnover in that position?
I have not received an update, but I do believe that there was going to be a new designation, a newly appointed tree warden. I don't know when. I don't know if it happened. I don't know when it's going to happen.
Okay.
Yeah, let's see, because we want the new one, not the one that's leaving.
Sure.
Let's bring the new guy in. Come on,
Right.
right? And it would be a nice welcoming too. If you just came into something to know that you had some other people you
use
could.
the tree board.
Yeah,
we can help
you could help them.
out.
Definitely.
Well, and I don't, in other towns like Jamestown, if they have solely a tree board, I mean, obviously it kind of makes sense maybe for the warden to come to every meeting, but, we're in, so far that being a tree board hasn't really been kind of what we've discussed a lot
Yeah,
about.
it's been a side gig
Yeah,
for the
right,
Concom,
right.
certainly.
So
Yeah, I mean,
mean,
and something that we could entertain is, I hate to, my goal is not to strip powers from the Conservation Commission, but if we thought it made more sense for there to be a standalone board.
no, I wasn't.
No, but
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
a possibility because there's certainly plenty of trees and tree-related topics in the town, and if a board really wanted to focus on that, they could. We're not going to be discussing tree matters at every Concom meeting.
Exactly.
But if we thought
Who
that it
was
made
our
sense
guest
for
that
someone
we had?
to,
The two guys we were in this room, and were they from the Park Service?
yeah, it was
Oh, and
Rex
they
Everly
also deal with
and-
trees because our conversation with
Right.
them was very tree oriented.
for sure. Yeah,
You
and
know?
they're paid town
They're
employees.
Yeah.
employees.
Yep, actually,
Definitely.
They're public
Jason,
works and
I was actually going to. Oh, I'm sorry. Mary, go ahead.
recreation, I think.
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
sorry, Mary. to interrupt. I was going to ask Jason in a certain sense, like, what the function of the two people that were here versus the tree warden.
Yeah.
Tree warden works under and reports to Rich Bourbonnais, who's the director of utilities.
Oh, I see.
He was one of the. He was
That's
the
one
other
of them.
gentleman that
Yeah,
was
we
here.
had both guys.
Rex-
I sat with him at the
Rex-
TRC meeting.
Oh yeah.
Rex Everly is from Parks and Rec, and that they were there to try to provide some information on potential, like if you guys wanted to plant trees in the public realm,
Mm.
where they thought you may find some opportunity to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Is the tree warden as a paid full-time position with the town?
Well, there's a whole bunch about that. Let's see.
I believe so. Yes. I don't know if it's full time.
So with something like, when the two gentlemen came here, they were suggesting some trees that could be replaced in a couple of different locations. And it sounded like they might be, or they were suggesting trees, they would potentially buy the trees and plant them. Or, you know, I mean, I'm just trying to figure out, would the tree warden have any, you know, say in, or be involved in that process, or is that purely?
Yeah,
kind
I
of
mean,
town.
because of that statement that we read earlier, not this
Yeah.
one, I was trying to look up the duties of
Yeah.
this tree warden.
Mm.
But the screen that was on earlier, I believe, addressed that,
Oh, okay,
saying that any tree planted in the public right of way must be in accordance by the tree warden or
Oh.
his or her designee, and shall be planted in accordance with their direction.
I see, okay, great.
Yeah,
thanks.
the tree warden is 18.57. This is our tree board. This is our duties.
Mm.
The actual warden has his duties listed at 18.57, yeah.
Just above.
I'll have
And
to-
his is quite significant compared to our ABC.
Yeah.
He's got 7 specific things here. He's also appointed by the town council, and he has to be a Rhode Island licensed arborist. So that has some background in that. So I'm pretty sure that's got to be a full-time paid position, I would guess.
Yeah, section, is it,
Eighteen
are these
point
bullets
five
section, you say section, or if I'm saying like 18.5,
-6 to -7 has the whole
Yeah,
thing with
it's
the
just
tree
section
warden.
18.57.
Article 2 is
but if
the
I want to
name.
reference the 7th bullet point
Part
there,
7,
Part 7.
subpart 7.
just
Subsection.
want to use the right language.
Yeah.
But yeah, part 7, the last bullet point there, it says that the tree warden will act as the liaison with the Rhode Island Department of Transportation in matters involving the planting, removal, and maintenance of trees within the right of way on
Well,
state
this
roads.
is our guy for our upper Tower Hill.
Well, yeah, so
Hello.
that made me wonder if he had.
We need to contact him.
I mean, I know that. I don't want to bring in that non
That's-
old business item,
But
but yeah, yeah. I just when I read that, I thought, oh, I wonder what his,
we do
if
need
at
to
all,
include him.
yeah, what his contact with Southern Rhode Island Conservation District had been, or if that road is what they're referring to, is the
Mhm.
type of road they're referring to in that.
I could certainly, you know,
Yeah, we should.
ask Gina that when I was figuring on contacting him, you know, maybe April to, you know, well, we don't have to get into that.
Yeah, in the future,
Yeah,
that could be
when
a
I
question.
contact.
A question I had for Jay is at the beginning of that 18.5-6, it says that the tree warden will be appointed in accordance with GL 1956 214.2. What is that? And that's reference.
That's state
so
law. That's state law.
that's a Rhode Island document.
Yep. I mean, I can try to look it up.
Yeah, I just was curious what the text in that document was.
Let's see if it fits this. Is it 1956 214.2?
There's another document in 18.5-21, part 5 of that. It says it references the town of South Kingstown tree protection guidelines. That was another document that I was
Is that where the right of ways are?
curious where that document was. Tree protection guidelines as amended and maintained by the Public Services Department.
Oh yeah, that's the last line in 5 there. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's referencing if construction's being done.
Yeah, how to protect the trees was.
Is that another document, a separate document than this then?
Yeah, that's what I was asking.
Yeah,
I'm
tree
not
protection
sure
guidelines. That's not this.
if that's like an internal
So
public
state
services
law,
document.
state law
That's not
outlines,
this.
this is the 2 chapters, chapter 214, tree wardens, and then the protection of trees and plants generally in the public,
All towns must comply with that because it's a state.
essentially, yep.
Yeah. Okay. So that's why this becomes more.
Yeah. Can you send us,
Wow.
or at least me, a link to that?
So this is just the guidelines for putting together your ordinances here.
Just for light reading later on. there was something in the next section, not to keep jumping around, but 18.5-23, just, there's a line about the tree warden posting if a tree is scheduled to be removed, just so that the public can see a sign on a tree and know that's being discussed, the removal of that tree is being discussed, and they have an opportunity to weigh in on that if they have an issue. I think we've talked about, maybe back when David was chair, about how the paper signs just fall apart immediately in a lot of cases. You know, it's supposed to be posted for 6 days, but if it's posted the day before it rains, you know, if it was posted today, it would be destroyed with Wednesday's rain. So I think I remember mentioning in some meeting about like the possibility of laminating that or having it be waterproof in some fashion. And if we wanted that to be the case, we could add that language, I think, in this section. Just say something that it has to be posted in a way that survives the period of time that it's supposed to be posted for. Just a minor addition that we could add. Jake, going back, the tree protection guidelines, do you know what that is?
Say that again.
In section, the other document I was curious about, 18.
Section 21.
21.
Yeah.
Part
It's the
5.
last line in part 5 there, just above 23. Or, excuse me, 22.
And what was the question about it?
What is
Let's
that
note this.
document?
Where we can find that, tree guidelines. It's a reference to the tree
It's
protection
amended and
guidelines.
maintained by the Public Services Department.
Okay. That's an internal handbook.
That's the official
Yeah.
answer.
Yeah.
Because it's part of the tree warden's job and tree warden's duties, and the tree warden's under public services.
Standard issue manual that
I
every tree
suppose
warden keeps in a holster.
Yeah, I don't know how that works. But I think there's enough, I think there's been enough turnover, particularly in the last 5 years, with board members and the tree warden and the director of public services and employees in the town, that it might be a good idea to reach out and see if Rich and the tree warden, when they come on board, maybe Rich needs to come in and have a conversation before the tree warden comes on board, so that he can understand where you guys are, where you're coming from, and what avenues could be considered for amendment if there are any, rather than bringing a new guy in, sit him at the table, and be like, you know.
We can definitely do that. Do we know?
Just a suggestion.
Do you know if the existing tree warden is Wallace? Well, it's
Bill Wallace.
but it's he's been sharing the responsibility.
His son, I think.
He and his son have sort of been playing that
I
role.
think so,
maybe
and
as
then,
deputy tree warden.
3 or 4 years ago, we created the deputy tree warden position, and I'll be honest with you, I don't hear anything.
Yeah.
The only time I hear something is when there is a member of the public that's upset that the tree's gotta come down, and the tree board may need to get involved.
Right.
And that's only happened once, maybe twice,
Yeah.
since I've been here 6.5 years, so.
Yeah, in 18.5-36, where it talks about penalties that could be levied, $2,500 fine, monetary restitution could be required of someone who did work illegally on a tree in the public ROW. Is there any record of, or is there any way to look that up, if that penalty has ever been levied against someone?
That would be under the authority of the tree warden, so I would imagine it would be with public services if anybody has anything.
Yeah, I would just be curious if these regulations have ever been enforced. I haven't heard about it ever taking place. But, and do we know if Bill Wallace's son is the person who's taking over officially as the?
I don't know
New
who's
tree
taking
warden?
over. I don't even know if that is actually happening. I mean, I believe it was mentioned to me that was happening.
How long ago would you say that was mentioned to you?
Month and a half.
I'll reach out to Rich because
I
these are Rich
sent him a
questions.
message. I'm just waiting for him to get back to me.
Okay. And for sure, if there's a hiring process going on, or if they already have a candidate that they're settling on, either way, I'd be interested to talk to Rich about it, I guess.
I mean, it'd be a good opportunity for both the board and public services and the tree warden to get a baseline of where all three are coming from, and where Rich may come to the table and say that there's, we really should improve A, B, and D. I don't know, pick something, but conversation's always good. Educates everybody. Everybody gets to know what's.
Yeah, and did you say it is a full-time position? Or
I don't know that. I think it's part-time, to be honest with you. So I don't believe it's full-time.
Yeah.
I think it's like as needed.
And is it within, do you think it's within the town's budget or capabilities to expand that position, if it's a part-time position, to expand that the way some other towns have and make it a full-time position that maybe could do more care and maintenance and not just sort of playing catch-up with trees that are falling apart?
Yeah, that should be clarified in here. with all
I
this,
think
what the position.
I think requesting more is potentially appropriate, but I think what you're gonna hear is that it's not the right time. From a financial standpoint, the town is juggling with budget now and
Yeah.
considerable considerations, and I don't know the likelihood of success that you would have. Now, that doesn't mean you can't talk about it now. I wanted to say plant the seed, but I was gonna.
You can say
We're not
plant
telling
Plant the
you.
seed.
We said
yeah.
we would.
Plant the seed now and say,
You're
and
killing me.
spend some time carving out things that you would like, that you could suggest would be handled differently, more thoroughly, more involved, and see what that way. I mean, it's always tough when you come out of the back of the room and say, "Hey, we want this," and everyone's like, "What?"
No, I and these are questions for Rich, I believe, but I would be curious just to establish what the baseline is for that position.
I mean-
And if it's part-time, is it as needed? Is it 20 hours a week?
I
Is
think
someone like,
I think it's part time.
yeah.
I think it's part time.
And as a part-time employee, is the tree warden able to do all of the duties that are already laid out? Are they? Is that promise being fulfilled to the town?
Yeah, and the real answer may be no, because of staff and financial resources, basically financial resources.
Right.
And a more aggressive program takes more money,
Of course.
and that's a tough sell right now with the current state of.
Yeah, and if the town council or whoever's making the decisions feels like the situation we currently have is working adequately, then there may not be a desire to change anything. But
Again, I
there's
think
certainly plenty of trees in town that could warrant
Yeah.
one full-time person tending to them. The other thought I have every time I'm on the URI campus is like, I mean, they obviously have, it's a totally different thing. It's a university, it's not a municipality, but in a lot of and they have an immense amount of funding, but in many ways it operates as a municipality. They have trash removal, they have landscaping, they have snow removal, all kinds of things that Public Services does in South Kingstown. And walking around the campus, you see just all of this plant and bushes, trees, all kinds of nice landscaping, and it's like sort of a micro model of what a town could be if you had a highly functioning landscaping crew.
So you're saying you wanna charge tuition to the residents also?
No, I know that there's big funding differences between South Kingstown and URI, but
I like the analogy though.
yeah,
I do
it's
like the
just
analogy. If not everywhere.
it's like a
in-
tiny town
Yeah,
that
it
is sort
is.
of like beautifully
Yeah.
landscaped.
And if not everywhere in town, in select locations.
Yeah. And again, maybe not a crew of landscapers, but maybe a single full-time person who's not, you know,
Yeah, the physical,
dealing
they
with all
call
of
it
the
the
public
physical
service
plant runs that at the
requirements.
university.
Okay, so do we want to maybe for next meeting just kind of nail down the language that we want to use for the changes we want to make, adding in the Rhode Island Native Plant Guide reference? Melissa, do you want to draft? Did you already have a draft language? for
I
that?
did, I mean, I guess, I mean, Jay could potentially send it out to everybody.
What's the
Uh,
process of adding that
or-
officially?
Do you want me to,
Or, I don't, right.
do you want me to just put it in a Word document and show the strikeout and the proposed? Like,
Yeah, I think that.
Yeah, yes, or I mean, I could do that and send it to you.
Sure.
Yeah, I'd be happy to do that.
I mean, I guess what do we, you're talking for a more,
Just what's the
in-
next official step of adding that to whatever section we said it was going to be in 18?
18.5.
yeah, it would be getting it on paper
5.
and writing in I would say next month, bring it back, written out as intended to be amended, right? Where we strike out or add and you
I
can see
see,
the
okay.
change.
Yeah.
And I can do that in track changes if you just send me what you have.
Okay,
And then
Um,
we have to format that as a letter to the.
And then take a
Planning board.
vote on it, discuss it, and take a vote on it next month to forward an advisory. It would be helpful if you had an advisory ahead of time, something crafted, something written up that describes what you're trying to achieve, what you're trying to do, to
Yeah.
go along with it.
That goes to the planning board or the town council?
This would go to the town council.
Okay.
But again, I will say it again, I think all of these type of discussions related with trees, you really should touch base with Rich before issuing an advisory, so you get a whole understanding of where they are. Because if you want, I think your best shot at getting it adopted is to make sure that he's on board with it.
Yeah, I mean, that's fine. I'm open to that. I don't think any of the changes we're making we're not restructuring whole sections of the ordinance, just, I think, referencing an actual guide where it already says that you need to select on appropriateness of species.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
But I never take any, in this instance, when there's always others ahead that you need to get on board, it's always better to touch base,
Make them feel like they're included.
contact them, make sure.
No,
there's
they're
nothing-
included, of course, yeah.
Yeah, make sure there's nothing that you didn't anticipate, because that happens. It happens, I've been doing this long enough to,
Yeah.
before the last thing you wanna do is go before the town council, and then next thing you know, it's you against somebody else.
Sure. Okay, so for next meeting, Melissa or you two together will draft language for how the native plant guide will be referenced, where the strikeout, where it'll be added. Do we want to invite Rich to that meeting?
Certainly.
Or is it the kind of thing that should just be an email? Or what do we think?
Bring him. Ask him if he wants to come.
yeah, I mean, I assume either April or May would be appropriate for him to come, to discuss ideas.
And then just like when you ask him, present it, that he could also inform us by email if he doesn't want to come. But
Okay.
knowing that he can come would be really, I would like that.
So
If
on
somebody
that
said-
note,
told-
on
send
that
that to
note,
me.
what I would like you, for the board to do is send me an email with the suggested changes, I'll format it. Send me an advisory letter describing the changes and what you're trying to achieve by proposing them. And I'll prepare something for you guys for next month when we sit and meet. So that, Matt, you could sign it that night if you guys all agree on it.
Mhm.
At the same time, I'll send it to Rich and just say FYI, Conservation Commission / Tree Board is considering the following amendment. do you have any, number one, do you have any comment or feedback on this? And two, would you be willing to attend the next meeting to have a brief discussion on topics associated with tree planting and tree warden and other things like that?
Okay.
And I'm planning on calling the tree warden about a specific tree that I have a concern with. So while I have him, I thought I would find out a little about him. Why not? I'll tell him what I do and why I'm concerned. You know, I drive under this tree for 2 years now, and I finally wrote down the address of the house it's sitting in front because it's starting to bug me. And why not find out if he's full or part-time? And why not find out those little things? Because we might want to actually add that into our ordinance and clarify that little section. It talks about their duties. It talks about who appoints them. It talks about they have to be a Rhode Island arborist, but it doesn't actually say this is a full-time person or, you know, it wouldn't hurt to just have that added into our ordinance a little bit, maybe to clarify that. I mean, we should know that as with the tree board, so I'll find out.
That's an excellent point.
While I'm
Yeah.
calling, I will inquire, just as an aside, and find out the name of the person for sure, father or son. I think we're not sure. And then also,
It is
if
Bill
there's-
Wallace,
It's
but
mo-
Yeah.
it's-
yeah, I think
it's
he's
most likely the son because the father is
Yeah, he's getting up
pretty
there.
old.
96.
Yeah, 96. Well,
Okay.
my mom's 92 though, and by God, she's in charge of a lot of different things. She
Yeah.
she works with a whole bunch of agencies. Believe me, she's like, don't hold no ageism at this table. I'll tell you.
She's
my mom won't have
wielding
it.
a chainsaw?
She's still
Yeah.
driving. Hello, yeah.
Yeah.
You
But
give
his
her a
son
chainsaw, she'll run.
His son is not officially related to the town in that
David,
way.
David,
Yeah.
we're broadcasting and nobody knows who's speaking.
I'm sorry.
Kind of out
Yeah.
of order here.
So yeah, another member of the public joined us,
I
David
apologize.
Flanders.
You just
yeah.
identify yourself, yeah.
David Flanders, former Concom member, Bill and Rhode Island certified arborist. Bill Wallace is doing less and less these days. Part of it is due to doctor's orders, not driving, using a chainsaw and such. But I still believe he was appointed in December again for
Oh.
another term.
Interesting.
His son is doing the business of Wallace Tree Service.
Okay.
So, but he's not really any ex officio of the town.
Right. Yeah, I didn't know if his son was operating as the deputy tree warden.
No,
But
there
not,
is-
not in that official capacity.
No, that position doesn't exist.
I think the position exists. I don't know if it's been filled.
Yeah.
Deputy tree warden?
Yeah,
Deputy?
there's a reference of it in the tree
I
ordinance.
didn't know that. I didn't know that.
Um,
Thank you.
Rob, that was, I think that was
In
done.
public services, right?
That was done under Rob Zarneski, yeah.
The deputy tree warden was added under
I
Rob?
believe so. I believe so. When Rob was the town manager, I believe that was.
Probably for this exact reason.
Yeah, so we need to dig into a little bit.
Yeah.
What if Wallace has been renewed as, I don't know how long those
Well, Rich
terms
can
are.
tell you
but-
that.
Yeah, yeah. But having a 96-year-old person as the tree warden might have some, might make it difficult to do some of the duties that are outlined in the ordinance.
But at one point, the tree board wanted to expand the duties of the tree board and the tree warden without getting into who the current tree warden was, just what should the duties of an ideal tree warden be.
Sure, yeah. I mean, and there's already,
It's a
before
pretty
you
good list.
before you joined us, David, we were already discussing some of those duties that are listed in the current tree ordinance,
Mhm.
and they're extensive.
Yeah,
Yeah.
good.
Okay. We'll reach out to Rich. We'll formulate the change to the ordinance referencing the Rhode Island Native Plant Guide. Maybe I'll write up. Actually, David, while you're here, I don't know if you recall we had talked about how a notice needs to be placed on the tree.
Yes.
And how it often falls apart
Right.
before that 6-day period
So
goes
when
by.
one of our
David,
revisions.
David, would you mind sitting here so we should?
So yeah, that's
You're
just
thinking
a
of
line I'd
producer,
like
too.
to add.
It's your new thing.
I remember we discussed it at a meeting, but I don't
Right.
think it.
Well, one
I
of
don't
our
think we have to
revisions,
do
we
that.
wanted it to be A in orange and B
So-
laminated.
Yeah.
And Rich's reaction was, we can't afford to do that. He said, you don't know my budget. So I went to Staples and I
Yeah.
said, how much would it cost to have an orange laminated thing? They said $3.
Well, maybe we can address it again,
So.
or
But
Yeah.
that was a good idea, I thought. It wasn't
Yeah.
my idea, but it was a good idea.
Okay, so before we attempt to add that language, I'll add that into the email to Rich and just see what his feeling on it is this year.
Yep.
Okay, cool.
Thanks.
The other sort of co-topic for tonight's meeting was the idea of seeking accreditation through Tree City USA and the 4 steps that are necessary to achieve that. We had discussed it a little bit at our prior meeting, and I think we're already ticking many of those boxes.
I sent Jay another document that kind of, I tried to look at what was available online, and they actually had a Tree City eligibility quiz. So I
Did you
had
take
sent
the
you
quiz?
It
Tree,
was fun.
Tree City / Arbor Day PDF that kind of look like this, have shots of slides.
Coming up.
Well, so I took this as a citizen. I didn't know if anybody else saw this. So, it says
Sorry.
right. This is fine. My community is described as a town. I mean, they had different things you could choose. So, so then their response was your community is eligible to become a tree city. So then it says which phrase best described. Well, I said concerned citizen anyway. So number 3 was, does your community have a designated tree board or department responsible for its public trees? And I said yes, and your comment was fantastic. Your community meets standard 1, tree board or tree department. So you're on, well anyway. So number 4 was, does your community have a public tree care ordinance? Yes, this meets standard 2.
Not a tree care ordinance at all. There's no line item for tree maintenance in the town budget.
Okay, well, I guess I was assuming that this, this document qualified for what they were asking for.
I have a town tree and they come and take care of it for me for free.
I believe that,
when I need it.
the
True story.
I believe we do meet that where it says we have a tree care ordinance.
Yes.
We could debate to
I
what
think we
extent care and maintenance
They come
is
and
being
take care of
considered.
it.
But it is referenced in there, so I think you could check that. It doesn't necessarily say, do you budget for maintenance?
Well, on the budgeting topic, that maybe we're getting to this, but the
Right.
4th.
Right, well, I was gonna ask Jay to scroll it up to show the bottom part of the slide. No,
Sorry.
no, that's okay. Maybe you can enlarge it a little bit. I just took a screenshot of this because it was too much to type. So, it says, how is urban forestry funded in your city? And it says you need to have something like, that's contributing at least $2 per capita for trees and tree care. And I think I just said yes. I didn't know. I mean, this is just to for your information. And
But
so
yeah, that is an important
yeah,
question, though. I mean, that's one of the 4 pillars and
Very much.
of achieving this accreditation. And the
We'd have
number
to
that I
check.
found it was the 2020 census, but almost 32,000 people in the town of South Kingstown. So $64,000. We would have to be confident that 64,000 was being spent annually. On
Which could be argued to be paying for the public services employee and paying his
Correct.
salary.
yeah,
I
the
think
tree
that's-
warden's salary and
I think that's achievable.
The tree warden has a stipend. It's not a salary. It's just an honorarium, and back in the late 90s, it was $5,000 a year. So
Okay.
he does it for the love of the job,
I see.
I don't know what the stipend is now.
Yeah.
well, then it said, does your community host an annual Arbor Day? And I didn't know, so I just said, they've occurred in the past, but I didn't know. I didn't know if that was maybe standard, 4 that you had to be. And the last one was more or less that you had to have, I guess, an Arbor Day celebration. You also had to have some sort of proclamation read in order to be, being designated a tree city. So, sounds like maybe you knew about this quiz, but I just thought it was, that we should look at this to see,
Yeah,
You
no,
know-
I didn't know about the quiz per se, but I, in that DEM document, it mentions what's necessary to achieve Tree City USA
Yeah,
accreditation, and yeah, it is. I think they phrased it as hold an annual Arbor Day celebration on a date established by the town as the local Arbor Day.
right. and need a
An
public-
Arbor Day
looked that up
proclamation
last
shall be
time. I
created and
remember
included as
looking
part of the
this up.
celebration.
And
So-
in Rhode Island, it's the last Friday in April.
Okay.
Right, well, this
Differs
year's,
from the country.
Usually scouts do something.
this year's, I did find out that, the Arbor Day, celebration in Rhode Island is April 25th. It's going to be held in Providence, along with the Rhode Island Tree Council.
Right.
Providence Day
I looked
School,
that up last
April
time.
25th, 11 a.m. Tree planting, grounds, lunch, speakers, awards. Anyway,
What did? Sorry, did it say where it was being?
oh,
held?
I'm sorry, Providence Country Day School in East Providence.
Providence.
Go to ritree.com.
Um,
That's their website.
Right, I mean, there was quite a bit of information, I guess, under the Arbor Day Foundation. That's probably
course.
But I guess if you, if you're finished with this, I have just a couple more things just to, they were talking about what you could do. So I guess this might need to be. Well, anyway, so, they said find celebration materials so you can buy Arbor Day products to sell, you can get coloring books, you can have an example of a, official proclamation, event planning materials, and if you go down one more, it says what you should be doing 8 months out.
Or 1 month out.
Organize your planning committee, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, once again, this can be sent out if you want, define a fundraising plan, write a press release.
And planting a ceremonial tree is pretty much standard process.
Sure. Right. Yeah, I mean, they have, the next slide just shows, fundraising ideas on, or, what you might do, honor others with trees, craft show. I mean, these are kind of big things. Community garage sale. I'm not sure. I guess, you're raising money to buy trees. And then the last one is, a sample program, which is, having a speaker and talking about Arbor Day and a proclamation and, right, you're saying plant a ceremonial tree together. So I just thought, this was, about Arbor Day and becoming a tree city, and this is kind of, something, just to lay the groundwork of what we might do or, ideas. And it's,
One
we're
Arbor
less than
Day.
8 months out. I'm sorry?
One Arbor Day, we decided to do a tree planting, the Concom, at Wakefield Elementary School.
Oh, nice.
And we were told we'd be doing it with fifth graders, and we're looking forward to it. And well, 5 minutes beforehand, the principal came out and said, well, they have to be taking the standardized test today, but we've got these third graders. I said, okay.
Yeah.
But these
Maybe
guys
better.
had been studying trees all semester.
Oh, wow.
Those
And they
third graders are
and they
okay.
participated. They knew how deep it should be. They asked all the right questions. It was the best
Amazing.
Arbor Day thing ever.
Oh, that's
Well,
a
there you
great
go. We
story.
have started.
Arbor Day
So
miracle.
I love
disappointed.
that
We
story.
have had an Arbor Day celebration,
Yeah.
at least.
No, but it meets every year.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I know, but I
Yeah.
mean, I'm just saying, the question was, have you had one in the past?
Right.
At least you've had
Yeah.
one. Well, anyway, like I said, I've, figured this would be informative to the group to, just get an
Very.
idea of, I guess, how big or little your Arbor Day celebration can be, and it's, not too far away.
Yeah.
I have to go speak at that meeting.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for
coming
coming
today.
in. You helped us a lot.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
So, I don't know really where to go from here, but we'd have to have,
Thanks, Jay.
See you, Dave.
I think we talked about this last meeting, and because we knew about that 8 months, we decided that if we want to take this on, we should plan it for the following. We can't do this by the 25th
oh, well,
of April.
that's fine. Like
Yeah.
I said, I figured,
I think it's
I
great.
didn't remember us talking about the 8 months planning, but, whatever the board wants, I just thought this would be.
I think that's a
good for-
great little presentation
Yeah.
right there to show us like that.
Yeah,
I
you want
I
to-
like seeing that.
And we should just make sure that I think we're already inadvertently doing the other three things, which is have a tree ordinance, have a tree board, and spend at least $2 per capita. But we need to double check that on the spending,
The
and
spending.
make sure that that's, if we're not meeting that goal, is it possible to increase it in order to do that? Are we almost there, or because that might be a sticking point if we're far away from that $64,000 number. But yeah, this is probably, assuming those other three are already happening, this is probably the most difficult aspect of it. It's not just a single year, but we need to be having this celebration every year, and we should make sure that there's an individual or a group of individuals that want to be planning that, or it doesn't have to be as big as some of those examples, obviously, but it needs to be something, and it needs to be annual.
In all the places I've lived around the United States, many have been tree cities, and usually scouts love to take this on. They will do their fundraiser and sell the Christmas trees. They will have money for Arbor Day. They will put together your Arbor Day thing. They will have a parade even. Like, they're all into it. So it
Yeah.
hasn't been a lot that to my way of knowing, that the tree board was ever involved with. So just saying, like, if that's something we want to do, that's where we could start to get
Excuse
them.
me, no one's DT 478, their license plate
No.
car?
No.
All right, they've misparked in a random spot.
Yeah, so involving scouts could be a good opportunity there. Also, I don't know, I think someone at our last meeting mentioned that they had seen that Narragansett was a tree.
Yeah, I went by a sign
Okay.
coincidentally, like the day I was on my way here.
So
They have a sign up over there near the beach.
we could talk to whoever's spearheading that in Narragansett and see what they do as a celebration. There's also, I don't know where the line gets drawn for accreditation, but if you have like a blended celebration with two towns, does that check the box? If Narragansett and South Kingstown wanted to have their celebrations concurrently.
So like a big party instead of a small party.
Big party, yeah.
Arbor Day Foundation is so helpful with this kind of stuff. Like, even on my property here, I was a member of Arbor Day Foundation for many years, and I would just write to them and they send me 10 rootstock.
Little trees.
Oh yeah, you should see the size of them on my property now. I've been like 30 years ago. Spruce? You kidding me? They're taller than my house.
Yeah.
They grow fast. I always bought the fast growers because I want to see some, product.
Want some shade.
Yeah, but I mean, gosh, they're very generous with that. So
Well, they did have on the website, about the 2025 Arbor Day celebration. There were links for other years. They said other years they give away 2,000 trees to Rhode Islanders, but you have to register to get them. I guess they want to know. I guess you have to go collect them. But anyway, they said the registration for 2024 didn't start until April 12th, 2024. And, so I assume that if they're doing it this year, that whatever link they have, or this, energy saving trees program, they haven't opened up a link yet. Because I didn't find one. But, I mean, that's, obviously a way of getting free trees if we wanted to.
I got 250 free trees when I bought 3 acres in Arizona. I got them sent to me before I had my well dug. Holy crap, you should have seen that. We had the bucket brigade with the big 55-gallon drums. Hello? Well, we did it, and those trees are big now. Those were planted in 1993. They're looking good. But yeah, trees are available if you want trees.
Cool. So for next meeting, maybe we'll bring this up again. We'll do some research in the meantime. I'll look into the budget aspect, the $2 per capita. Make sure that or just take the pulse of where we're at on that number. We'll have some answers about the role of the tree warden. We'll have spoken with Rich. Do we want to try to do anything for Arbor Day that would allow us to? I mean, I don't think we're going to have a big block party planned in 6 weeks, but if this is something we wanted to pursue for 2026, do we want to be able to have pointed at something that we did for 2025, or do we think it's just too short notice? I don't know if David Flanders wants to go plant a tree with some third graders again, but
Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, it sounds like if we were going to maybe do something small, like, you know, I guess the Conservation Commission did in the past is maybe plant a tree on a school property.
Mm.
I mean, it seems like that might be the only thing
Okay,
we might
yeah.
accomplish, or I don't know.
I guess is our goal, if we're seeking that accreditation for 2026, is our goal to say we're moving, going into the future, we're planning to do celebrations, or do we have to be able to, how much of a indication do we have to show them that we have already celebrated Arbor Day in the past?
I don't know. I mean, I forget what the tree, you know, quiz said after I said we
Yeah, scroll that
celebrated
back
it.
down
Like,
so
does
we
it
can
count
see
that
that
we-
question. Does
we
it ask
reference-
you, have you already done it, or do you plan to do it? How's that question read?
You know, is it
Let's
yeah,
see that one.
is it inadequate that we say that
We
did
want
this tree
to.
planting with
Yeah.
these third graders, but that was
It was-
Well,
6 years ago.
It says, does your community have an Arbor Days event, you know, I guess every year? Well, I guess it's you know, we've done it in the past, but not every year. It's fantastic. Click here to find ideas for LO. So I mean, I don't know. Doesn't
So that's
sound
true, we
like
have done
it's-
it in the past. David just verified that, but
Right,
not every
right.
year.
Well, I mean, it doesn't sound like it, you know, negates your chance to become a tree city, especially if you, you know, say you're going to have them in the
So
future.
you're gonna have it up for the future then?
Yeah. So, I mean.
Yeah, you're
I
right
mean,
in the
it
middle.
says to maintain eligibility for this program, the town shall meet the following criteria, and the first one is hold an annual Arbor Day
Right,
celebration.
yeah. We
That's to maintain it once
Right,
you
maintain-
become the tree
Okay,
city.
fair. Yeah.
Yes,
yeah.
this is, we're trying to become the tree city, and that's just asking you, like, where are you at right
Yeah,
now?
okay.
Yeah, I-
Noted.
And I do like the way you picked that one there, Melissa. It's sort of in between. We don't have it every year. We have never not had it. We've
Well,
once
I
in a
mean,
while had it.
That was kind of the obvious one
Yeah.
to see what they said.
Yeah.
So once again, it doesn't seem like they're precluding you from becoming a tree city if you say, yes, we've had them in the past, but not every year.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just asking you flat out, what's your status?
Yeah.
And so I wouldn't do to lie about your status.
No. I'm not suggesting that we lie about our status.
Um,
Another thing is, I don't know if it has to be like a municipally organized event. If there may be
That's right.
Arbor Day celebrations that are happening in South Kingstown every year anyway, and we could just sort of contact those
Become
people.
aware of
Yeah,
them.
become aware of them and,
Mhm.
and cite those going forward. Yeah. Okay. I think we've got things to think about for next meeting.
I assume, like, I guess contact the Narragansett, I guess maybe it must be their Conservation Commission, they must have something online.
Yeah,
See-
if you
see
wanted
what
to
they've
reach out,
done.
that would be excellent.
You know,
Yeah, I'm thinking
Tree
about
City.
buying a house, and are you at US Tree City?
I think we could just, yeah, we could
I
say
wonder
that
if
we're
that's the
representative
reason we're
of
going to
the
tell the
Concom.
people on our town council, because people will come here for housing if they know we're a tree city. That's got to be a selling point.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks for doing that, Melissa. Okay, are we satisfied with this discussion for now?
Mhm.
I'll bring I will use these agenda items on next month's meeting as well. Continue this discussion. Moving on to E, a report from a duty member on the prior month's TRC meeting.
yes, yeah, so there were, 3 items. The first one was called the Hefter Minor Subdivision. It was essentially, 2 large lots, that were divided into 3 lots. The, lot that was added was, kind of sculpted in the middle of the 2 existing lots. And there was a plan to, build a 5-bedroom house on the new lot. And there really wasn't anything for me to comment on. They had applied for an on-site wastewater treatment system, and they had swales for if they needed any, runoff mitigation, so that moved forward. The second one I'll talk about very briefly was, there was new South Kingstown, emergency services facility.
Yes, emergency services.
It was being built on land acquired from the, or I guess maybe half the lot of the South Kingstown Land Trust. All permits were accounted for, and whatever land was not going to be used is going back to South Kingstown Land Trust. And actually, they kind of presented that material that morning, and so I really, didn't feel like I could comment on it, but it moved forward. And the last one was major subdivision and major land development for South County Commons. So there was a proposed construction of two buildings. Each would have 52 units in it, which would be studio, 1 to 2 bedroom units built at South County Commons. And so the development would be on town sewer and water, and it sounded like the addition of these units would more or less be built on excess parking. So they would already be, paved, be built on existing impermeable surfaces, and there would be implementation of stormwater management to mitigate runoff. But they didn't think that from calculations they had done in the past, these addition of these two buildings were not going to exceed what was already allocated, like for water and stormwater runoff. I think maybe I got that right. Anyway, the only thing that I could really comment on was that they had unsurprisingly, a planting list, and obviously for landscaping. So I briefly, just mentioned to them about our research into the, use of native plant guides, and what we had gone through to move this to the planning board. And the person who was they're giving their presentation, took down the Rhode Island Native Plant Guide as a source for native plants, and he said he would pass that along to their landscape people. So that was it.
Awesome. Thank you, Melissa.
Wait a minute.
And we will designate a member.
There does not appear that we will have a TRC meeting this month.
There's no TRC meeting for March. Should we bump? Do we know who? I think I was scheduled for March. Yeah, so I'm happy to be bumped to April, but I guess we can cross that bridge at our April meeting. But to whoever was supposed to attend the April meeting, I'm happy to not shirk my responsibility to go to one.
I got you coming up.
Correspondence and public comment. Hearing none. Our next meeting date is scheduled for April 1st, 2025.
April Fool's Day.
And with that, the meeting is adjourned. Or do I hear a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I motion.
Okay, motion by Carol, seconded by Mary. Meeting adjourned at 7:10 p.m.
April 1st. All right. I'm writing it in right now.